Hey everyone, welcome back to the Alberta Roundup. I'm your host, Rachel Emmanuel. I know I said that we probably wouldn't have an episode this week, and while there won't be one on Saturday, I wanted to come to you midweek because there were a couple of things that happened this weekend that I think we need to discuss. On today's show, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith sent Prime Minister Justin Trudeau back to Ottawa with his tail between his legs. That among the Prime Minister's other awkward and embarrassing Stampede moments. And you're going to want to stick to the show till the very end because I have a big announcement. All that and more happening now on the Alberta Roundup. So I suspect you guys saw some of this online over the weekend. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was in town for the annual Calgary Stampede. He comes every year and has a small visit. And this year, his visit was followed by one hiccup after the other. Midway through his visit, the Prime Minister sat down with our Premier Danielle Smith, who told him Alberta has no plans to comply with his target for a net zero power grid by 2035. Here's what that looked like.
We would like to establish a working group so that we could talk about how we might be able to achieve a net zero power grid, but I've indicated to the Prime Minister that that is not possible by 2035, which is the federal target. We've been told that by our experts here. We also know that an emissions cap or emissions reduction, such as the one that's been proposed of 42% by 2030, would also result in essentially a production cap, which we don't think is realistic or feasible as well.
Of course, that wasn't the Prime Minister's only embarrassing Stampede moment, nor was it far from the worst. My personal favorite is this one when he tried to cook a very, very undercooked pancake. You guys might have seen this circulating over the internet on the weekend, but it's too good not to watch again and again and again. I was discussing this moment with my colleague Cosmin Georgia on the Daily Brief earlier this week, and he said it probably happened because the Prime Minister has never cooked his own food, which seems like a fairly obvious answer because I think anyone over the age of 12 would know that that pancake was not ready to be flipped. And just when you thought things couldn't get any worse for Trudeau's failing Stampede visit, a couple of protesters snuck their way into a private Liberal campaign rally. And just after his speech finished, they yelled, "Is Uncle Klaus proud of you?" and "Get the WEF out of Canada." Here's what that looked like.
Is Uncle Klaus proud of you? Get the WEF out of Canada!
Get the WEF out of Canada!
Of course, this is all made that much more comical because every year the Prime Minister comes to the Calgary Stampede for his obligatory visit. I kind of suspect that he doesn't really want to be here. And the PMO keeps his schedule very quiet so that protesters can't show up to his events. And yet every year, protesters manage to find out about it and sacrifice their weekend time to go and tell the Prime Minister exactly what they think of him. Okay, guys, and I did want to do a weekly comment roundup because there won't be an episode on Saturday, and you guys had so much to say about last week's show, and I wanted to get to some of those comments. But before I do that, I do have a bit of a bittersweet announcement for you all. We are going to be taking a couple weeks off from the show, so there will be no Alberta Roundup until probably October, as I am going to be taking some time off to welcome my first child into the world. It is sort of a natural time for us to take a break anyways because it is summer and things are slowing down. However, it is a little bit unfortunate for me as I am going to be pregnant throughout the entire summer. That being said, instead of having a weekly question this week, for all of you experienced parents out there, I know there are many of you, please feel free to comment on the video below and give me your best parenting advice for newborns. I'll be honest, I'm quite unpleasant to be around when I am overtired, and I expect that is going to be the case for several weeks and months to come. So any and all advice is appreciated. Okay, now that we have that aside, let's take a look at some of your comments from last week. Most of you commented about Alberta Premier Danielle Smith's decision to say that the matter with CBC is closed after they said they regret their erroneous reporting. User Everett Humphrey said, "That is her choice to be noble to close this and move on to other issues. But like she stated, the NDP needs to do the same and apologize. I agree with a full retraction and do it publicly from all parties involved so people really see the faces behind this. User J. Charles Kenny said, "Consider the issue closed. They distributed false information that is damaging to Danielle Smith's character. If we truly want change in this country, they need to be held to account above and beyond an apology." Okay, and since we're going to be taking a couple weeks break from the podcast, as we come close to our 1-year anniversary of starting the podcast, I started it in August of 2022, so we're getting close to that date now. I wanted to address another comment which really raised what I think has been the most controversial part of the Alberta Roundup over the past year. This is now my 3rd time addressing this matter on the show, but some of you have seemed really upset with my use of the phrase, "you guys." And another user piped up last week to voice his dislike of it. Canada is Ruled by Clowns said she overuses the term guys and it makes her sound like a 5th grader. So I don't know if it's a Western Canadian thing, a local to wherever she is thing, or just a her thing, but I find it really detracts from her credibility to be calling everyone you guys. I did know a woman from Medicine Hat who would have been in her late 30s when I knew her, who I think also did this, so maybe it's regional, but frankly, it hurts the ears. Central Ontario here, and I haven't heard this since I was in primary school. Nor have I ever heard a credible adult use it. Well, to start, this is the Alberta Roundup, and we don't want any of that Eastern Canada condescension on this show. I know that those of you who still live in Ontario love to look down at us Westerners, but we will not accept that on this show. I'd also note that your argument of it being a regional thing falls apart because I actually grew up in the Niagara region, born and raised for over 20 years, so we probably didn't even live that far apart from each other. So I don't think it's a regional thing. I will concede that I slightly overused the phrase, "you guys." I could probably throw in a "okay everyone," or maybe I should quote our beloved Prime Minister and say "okay people kind" here and there. I think maybe it's because I have so many brothers and I have a lot of male cousins, so I've just spent a lot of time around guys my whole life. So it just comes off very naturally to me. But I think that your reaction is a little over the top, and I don't think I sound like a 5th grader. I actually don't even think you think that, or you probably wouldn't have watched my show in full. So I'm sorry to say, it's here to say, I'll try to use it a little bit less, but you're just gonna have to get used to it. And when we finally get some Alberta Roundup merch, which I have been asking for, we're gonna get the phrase "you guys" splashed across it, and I promise to send you a shirt for your troubles. Okay, everyone, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Alberta Roundup. Please don't forget to comment your parenting advice on the video below. And as I said, I will see you all in October, so thank you so much for your support over the last couple of months. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless.